Hello, YouTube. Today I'm going over some code that I made to work with Costa Rican IDs. So essentially, this code base was actually pretty old. I had more code bases to work with. Essentially, I just grabbed Costa Rican IDs and make this pictures with it, uh, just like that, because I wanted to train an OCR model to read these images and then place them adequately as a dictionary with key value pairs, right? So, for instance, usually the key for nombre was nombre and the actual name was the value, okay? It worked pretty well. I used Figma initially to make the IDs, but there's also some pre-processing that I had to do, okay? So we're gonna go over the data. I had to clean names, okay? So here I clean different types of names. Here I clean the names of uh men and women, okay? So here's men and women, the CSV file for each. And essentially that is what I use. And it was pretty neat to use it. I used the Pico library. Honestly, the Pico library is quite good. I use default dict too. So here's the function to clean names, and it was quite useful, okay? Overall, it was a nice data cleaning um, to work with for the names of women. So what did I do? So essentially, it was just name list. The concatenation was false. So if concatenate, I performed this concatenation step. Otherwise, I did not. And I just made sure I added the names, and I made respective pickle files because there was also last names. So it's not only the last names, it was not a complete name, so it was also last names that I had to work with, okay? Now, when we move on to other data sets, we count the territories. So I was working with Costa Rica, right? So here, what I have is an Excel file that I made for Costa Rica. Like I could open anyway this one. I think I could just work it around. It was just an XLX file. But at the end of the day, what you have to know is it was something pretty similar to what appears in the tables. You'll see it on GitHub. But the importance of this document is that it cleaned the province, the canton, and the distrito. Okay? So distrito is district, basically. And it works quite well to make the ID. Like if you see the IDs, let's just use this one. Here, what you have is Belén is the canton. Here we have the distrito, and then here you have the province, okay? Then here what you have is the domicilio electoral. So you have distrito, Huaca, Sojancha, so on and so forth. It worked decently, um, and we can go further into the debug. However, once I finished all that, I worked with a generation of células, okay? So basically, the document did was a generation of the células, okay? And each célula had to have a UUID. That way, the file had a particular name. So it's célula UUID, as you can see. It returns a UUID for the célula. You get the name, you get the dates, obviously using a random.choice, okay? And then here we have the main function that is generating the célula text. Okay, so you have número célula 2, which is a número of célula that appears in the back. Then you have the birth date, the date in which the célula is due, the name, first name, the second last name, or the first last name, the second last name, the name of the father, the name of the mother, and then you have the electoral district and the birthplace, okay? So usually there are functions for every single one of those, okay? So if every single one of them had were defaulted to none, okay. But in reality, you had one that got get lugar. Get lugar could work for birthplace and for electoral district, okay? So I wasn't completely using realistic electoral districts, okay? Now here you have the dates that it makes, which is the birth date and the due date, and also the get name. It decides if it is male or female, if gender is equal to none, and if gender is not equal to none, then it gets a male or a female gender respectively, okay? So here what we have is we load the Pico names, the Pico last names, and it works quite decently overall. So basically, let's see how we could run this as a main. So far, I add a timer. Now let's start with, for instance, something like 12 right now, okay? So we're gonna start with 12, and for like here, I'm just gonna print the PKL. One that we have is provincia canton, which is one that I pre-processed, and canton to provincia. We can have provincias. I could just print provincias and the rest. But overall, we're gonna see the new documents that I made. Okay. So let's make a new path. Okay. So path said uno. We're gonna make it the current directory. Okay. This is gonna be the current path name, and we're gonna call it sed dos because we're just gonna make two IDs. Okay. So we're gonna make two IDs and then we call it a day. So let's make two of them and let's do it. Okay. This is the command J. And I'm going to use synthdoc. So let's go to source dot env bin activate cd sed gen 1. Okay, so here I just run a Python command gen celulas uno.py. And it's taking its time. Let's have it load. 0%, no such file directory, imgsolas.jpg. So built-in objects w plus b. So it was an error in this one. img solas imgs. So let's change it to imgs. Let's see what happened with this one. Command F imgs. Let's just do output there. And let's change that for now. And it should work. 50% ready, you have one and then two. And guess what? We got this two IDs. We have Roman Alberto, Lawah Sijes, and then we have George Cornell, Gorbena, and Arena. So you can see the code more or less in GitHub. Obviously, I'm going to work on more projects. Like I'm going to make the web app and discuss a little bit more in detail research on OCR models. Starting with this, I think I left this after a small project I had for a small consulting project. It was like a really small consulting project on the opportunities to use AI for OCR. And I think that so far this task is quite simple like human-like. And overall, there's a lot of room for improvement. And AI is great at protein folding, playing games, but somehow something is that a human can simply do, such as, reading, reading a document literally, is quite hard for an AI. It seems like a simple task for a human, and uh, getting the human error rate to be higher than the OCR AI rate, error rate, is something that is quite difficult, especially using Google's OCR models. But overall, I'm making this data generation challenge and some other data scraping challenges to generate data just to continue this trend going. You can check the code in the GitHub repository. Overall, this project, I would say it wasn't that elaborate. It was just cleaning the data sets and using Pico adequately. I would say you can check it out if you want to work with your own OCR model that reads Costa Rican IDs or IDs from your country. Just know that you will have to edit this code, okay? For the purposes of adjusting it to your IDs. Um, I think I'm going to add another session in which I'm going to work with IDs of other countries. Maybe something like, I don't know, the US people love playing with fake IDs. So I might as well try it with, I don't know, a Texas ID, a Florida ID, something like that. And just make names more American and less, I don't know, Latin. But overall, uh, there will be more to come regarding projects like this. Just make sure to check the code base in GitHub if you want a more thorough analysis of it. And I'll pretty much soon update my YouTube channel with a video explaining in depth every single concept that you need to make this project work.